African governments have issued a range of responses following Israel's ongoing airstrikes against Iran. While some states, such as South Africa, Sudan, and Mauritania, condemned the attacks, others refrained from criticism. The African Union was among the first to respond, expressing deep concern over the violent escalation, which killed hundreds of Iranians and wounded thousands, and calling on all parties to avoid further military action. In a statement, the organization urged maximum restraint and warned that the situation posed a serious threat to international peace and security. Condemnation, concern, and silence. South Africa, a long-time pro-Palestinian ally, condemned the Israeli attack, slamming violations of international law. The country has consistently stood against Israel's military actions in Gaza. In December 2023, it brought a case before the ICJ, arguing that the war on the besieged territory breached the 1948 United Nations Genocide Convention. Meanwhile, Mauritania issued a strong statement condemning the strikes as an attack on Iranian sovereignty and a violation of the UN Charter. Protests were also held outside the U.S. Embassy in Nouakchott, with people voicing opposition to Israel's actions. In Egypt, Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati warned that the ongoing military confrontation poses a threat to regional stability. According to a statement, he said Cairo is engaged in intensive diplomatic efforts with regional and international stakeholders to contain the crisis and prevent further escalation. Sudan's foreign ministry also denounced the airstrikes, calling them unjust aggression. At the same time, local media reports indicated concerns that the conflict could draw the war-torn country into the broader regional tensions, especially given alleged ties between Iran and factions within the Sudanese military. Kenya and Nigeria both issued measured statements urging de-escalation and dialogue. Benin President Patrice Talon said the worsening situation in the region posed a risk to global security and called for restraints from all sides. Other countries, including Algeria, Senegal, and Guinea-Bissau, also voiced concerns, but other states have so far remained silent. Several countries that maintain close ties with Israel have withheld comments. Among them is Morocco, which has not issued any official statements. The country normalized relations in December 2020 under the U.S.-brokered Abraham Accords. Since then, they have bolstered cooperation across defense, cybersecurity, and trade. In 2021, Israel opened a liaison office in Rabat, with the North African nation receiving advanced military technology like drones and air defense systems in the same period. Rwanda is another Israeli ally that has remained silent. Kigali and Tel Aviv have long cooperated on intelligence, security, and agricultural technology. Côte d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Kenya, and Ethiopia, all of which have strong bilateral ties with Israel, have also avoided making direct statements about the attacks. Their responses have either been muted or framed in general terms about the need for regional stability. Analysts noted that their neutrality is likely seeking to protect strategic relationships with Tel Aviv while avoiding public backlash or diplomatic tension with other African and Middle Eastern allies. Many states continue to rely on US and EU development funding, which supports Israeli-aligned foreign policy. Meanwhile, media in Africa published mixed reactions to Israel's attack on Iran, with some outlets saying that economic, diplomatic, and ideological leanings towards the two feuding countries affected their stances. Wolf Quotidian newspaper in 16th June says while countries such as Nigeria, Algeria, South Africa, and Benin had so far spoken about they're either condemning the Israel attacks or expressing concern over the possible uncontrollable spiral of confrontation, others have yet to utter a word. Many African countries still express neutrality in this war, a position dictated by interests. These countries know fully well that campaigning for one or the other could potentially have negative impact on their diplomatic and economic relations, the report stated. Iran, like Israel, has increased its diplomatic and religious activity in many African countries. The newspaper said, citing examples such as the Sahel Alliance states, Zimbabwe, Senegal, and Tanzania, among others. As for Morocco, it remains the Maghreb country that maintains close relations with Tel Aviv. Therefore, it said many African countries were in a delicate position, which was forcing their leaders not to take sides. On June 13, South Africa condemned Israel's attack on Iran, saying Tel Aviv's actions raised serious concern under international law, including the principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. Kenya and the African Union called for de-escalation and restraint after Tehran vowed to a powerful response to the strikes. Mali's privately owned Maljets criticized Israel's reported media ban on its conflict with Iran, citing double standards and urging respect for free expression and citizens' rights. Why are certain limits tolerated for some actors and not for others? Restrictions imposed on public space is in such circumstances have perceived as unacceptable, Malijet says. The website added that evolving global dynamics means the actions of countries traditionally seen as models are now being closely scrutinized in both bilateral and multilateral relations. Meanwhile, Benin President Patrice Talon expressed deep concern over the rapid deterioration of the situation in the Middle East, marked by acts of armed violence and a worrying intensification of tensions. 24 hours old, the Benin reported on June 15. Speaking on 14th of June, Talon warned that the situation presented grave risk to regional stability and endangered international security, urging all parties to exercise maximum restraint. Sudan's privately owned website Al Rakoba Net on 16th of June detailed how the escalating Israel-Iran conflict could entangle war-torn Sudan in a broader, more dangerous political and military crisis. It described Iran-Sudan relations as rooted in mutual respects and interests and ideological alignments, particularly between Iran and Islamist elements within the Sudanese military, raising the risk of Sudan becoming a proxy actor in Iran's confrontation with Israel. The report highlighted revived connections between Iran and a faction of the Sudanese military nicknamed Kizan, noting that Tehran aims to leverage these ties and exploit Sudan's internal chaos to expand its regional influence. Iran has reportedly been providing direct military support to the Sudanese army through weapons shipments, drones, and Revolutionary Guards operating mainly in the northeastern city of Port Sudan. Iranian cargo planes operated by Keshfar Air have been landing at Port Sudan airports day and night, loaded with shipments of weapons and drones. These are accomplishments or accompanied by experts from Iran's Revolutionary Guards who operate the drone system and train Sudanese personnel in their use. He said that Sudan's de facto president and army chief, Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, dispatched a special envoy to Israel to deliver messages to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, among them Sudan's desire to finalize the normalization process and sign the Abraham Accords in exchange for future Israeli support. So what do you make of this latest developments as it relates to the system? Africans are reacting to what's going on in Iran and Israel because it has far-reaching implications. I mean, there are sometimes when you align with Iran, maybe you don't have so much to do with Iran, but Iran's ally, the likes of China, Russia, and other countries might decide to now start marking you out in terms of aid. And of course, if you align with Israel, you are actually going to also start creating enemies and enmity between your country and other countries. So as a popular thing that Africa is actually in the middle of a confused state of things, and they don't want to be caught in the wind of supporting somebody. At the end of the day, of supporting that person, you lose your friendship with this other group of persons, because again, like you said, Israel is not alone in this war. Iran is not alone in this war. They have backers, they have friends, they have allies. So when you side with Israel, be rest assured that you are going to have a problem with countries that are siding Iran, which is of course Russia, China, and the likes. So if you side with Iran, the same thing, you're going to have problem with United States, France, Germany, and the like. So it's well divided, it's well knitted. So it is clear why the African continent isn't really saying much or doing much or even announcing anything specific about that, except for South Africa, who has clearly come out to say they're condemning Israel's attack on Iran. Of course, they've always been in the forefront of attacking Israel and speaking to the actions and activities of Israel right from the days that they invaded Gaza. But it's important that this is actually stated because, again, there's practically nothing Africa can contribute, but we could tell about the influence of what's going on in the Middle East on Africa. Like today in Nigeria, we're seeing the surge in the amount of crude of petrol for vehicles. Petrol is what is largely used in Nigeria. It rose from 890 that it used to be to over 950. So it's crazy, and I just hope that things turns out really well. The bombing in that has just occurred in Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. It's really catastrophic for Iran, and one would wonder really what is Iran going to do next? Iran has released a statement that it's going to be an everlasting consequences. There will be an everlasting consequences on the United States. And one wonders what Iran is going to do afterwards. What exactly is Iran going to do? So it's stunning. It's really, really stunning. But I really want to hear from you. Tell me what you think about this developments, about the effects on Africa, as the case may be.